Hi, everyone. Yeah, we are here to talk about something which probably could have been neglected a little bit during recent years, and hopefully we can convince you why this happened and what we can hopefully do about it. Because last years we've seen an explosion of the number of opportunities that we have, especially in the digital space. Number of touch points, number of formats, the amount of data that enables us different types of targeting opportunities, optimization, buying techniques, and so forth. But we kind of forgot about the other half of what makes advertising work, which is creative effectiveness. And when we look about how many creative assets are created every year, the increase is just mind-boggling. There are long gone times where a digital campaign consisted of just a few digital assets. Today, big brands like Adidas, like Tesco, like Coke, P&G, or Shell produce hundreds, if not thousands, of creative assets every year. And we really need to look at which one of them perform and why. And I believe this has become an especially important subject recently, because there is this fantastic paradox that we are experiencing. And the paradox is that this number of opportunities that the digital space has uncovered did not pair with increase of effectiveness. Actually, we are probably living in the world of one of the biggest, creative effectiveness declines since a really long time ago. And this is troubling. Today's 3 out of 4 brands could just disappear and barely anyone would notice. Majority of consumers feel that the content which is being created and served to them by brands is totally irrelevant. And there is some space for improvement surely there. If we would take all the digital assets that are created by a brand, we could just look at the top performing quartile of them, and if we could see why they perform better, what is the improvement gained to be had if all the creative assets were top performing assets, maybe we are onto something. And this is where the world of data and creativity connects. And let's start digging into this.
So we don't even have to focus on the top performing creatives that Stanisław was talking about. Client by client, country by country, when we are looking at the historical creative performance data, we see that the better half of creatives is a few times more effective than the poorer performance. And this shows a huge improvement opportunity, but also gives us confidence that our clients are able to create better creatives because they have occasionally done that in the past.
Okay, this is true. This is true, David. But also we need to address this one thing, that it's not really a question of which ones underperform and overperform. What we really should be asking is a different question, and this is a question of why. Why certain creatives overperform, why certain creatives underperform. And if we can answer this, then we can go the next step and say, okay, so what can we do about this? Any ideas, Mr. Analytics guy?
Yes, obviously. So we could start with what many marketers do, which is proving creatives via A/B tests. In many cases, this is a great solution. However, if we want to get a holistic picture, there are a few flaws in this approach. First of all, we are able to compare only a few creatives at a time. What about a scenario where we are using tens of assets for every single campaign with multiple campaigns during the year. Secondly, it would cost us quite a lot of money because we would be investing working media budgets into creatives that by design will be underperforming versus the better option. And lastly, we would still not know why a given creative performed particularly well, so we wouldn't know what to reapply in the future creatives. We could obviously go one step further and sit a few people to compare and classify the thousands of creatives at our disposal, compare them against creative effectiveness, and draw some conclusions based on that. But is it really worth the effort of human mind and human time? Can we do it better and smarter? Why don't we use the machines to do the hard work for us? We do have at our disposal different trained computer vision AI algorithms that can in bulk identify the elements and quantify the elements that are present in creative. We can simulate human-eye interaction by using different attention mapping AI solutions.
We can do that now.
Yes, we can, and also translate that into data. And we can use machine learning model to find patterns in that data and attribute creative performance to the different creative elements. MediaCom's creative analytics is the system that integrates various proven AI solutions into one single product. It automatically sources data from the key digital marketing systems, and it's able to handle different types of creatives, from static to videos. Creative analytics disaggregates creative elements into text, colors, the objects present in the creatives, together with their size and position. It projects human attention for those different elements and identifies hotspots, and it links this using machine learning models with campaign performance data to draw meaningful insights and actionable recommendations for future asset creation.
Okay, it started to make sense for me, and as a strategist, I would see at least few uses for this kind of creative analytics. The first one is kind of obvious, perhaps not the strongest one, but let's address it anyway. It's just understanding our own historical creative effectiveness. It's nothing to be sneezed at, just to know how we performed, what performed, and why historically. But there are stronger benefits, I think, hidden in creative analytics. One is just reducing creative wastage. If we have more precise knowledge about which elements of creatives we are using drive performance, focus people's attention, and correlate well with the ultimate effects, then we can focus the brand team, the media team, the creative agencies team, focus all this effort into creative assets which really have a higher probability of performing, just reducing wastage, reducing work on ineffective solutions. One benefit worth mentioning as well is how creative analytics has fantastic potential to really jumpstart effectiveness of DCO. For all of you who are not so familiar with what DCO is, a quick reminder: DCO stands for Dynamic Creative Optimization. And this may be an oversimplification. Sorry for everyone who is more into technology. Sorry, Adrian, for example. DCO basically means that we can construct assets that are being served to the consumers on the fly from elements. And you can already see how this can work fantastically with creative analytics, because from creative analytics, we know exactly which elements drive performance. So this is a great tool to inform DCO what types of creative assets should be created, what type of creative elements should be there, and how they should be put together to drive effectiveness. There is one additional benefit, which I think is worth exploring, but it has to do with some of my criticism towards guys from analytics, which is, normally they do fantastic work. Dawid, I love your work. But you seem to have a tendency sometimes to focus on, the trends in data or, averages, means, which means that, every outlier in some group is probably just worth discarding because it makes the data kind of dirty.
Yeah, we often do that.
Yeah, you do. You do. But looking at these outliers in creative analytics projects is sometimes very illuminating. And I'll give you a really fun example of this. For one of the clients, we have found that there was one particular creative element which drove significantly higher view-through rates and was really, really underused. The number of impressions that it got was really, really small. So it had huge potential, but really underused one. It turns out that this creative element was actually motorboats, believe it or not. And if you ask a strategist or someone from the insights team, they could probably tell you why this may be true. Motorboats can drive our emotions, a feeling of freedom, sense of energy, adventure. You can almost feel the wind in your hair. Not mine, obviously. What we have recommended is a campaign with significantly more of motorboats, and it has proven super effective. It drove 5 times higher view-through rates versus regular campaigns. So sometimes looking at outliers in creative analytics can be a source of inspiration and source of insight, which turns into breakthrough results. So are we done here?
Not really, because it sounds like everyone should start benefiting from creative analytics and start looking for their version of the motorboat. Mm-hmm. However, like in every good movie, there is a plot twist to that, so we really need to be careful. One of our global clients got really excited by the potential within creative analytics. They are intensively running DCO campaigns, so they had the thousands of creative variations that Stach was mentioning. So they really wanted to use that historical amount of creatives to learn how to create better creatives in the future.
Sounds like a great idea.
It was. However, when we started to kick off the project, we realized that there is an issue with creative performance data. Simply, performance for the different variations of DCO creative was not tracked individually, which really meant that for the thousands of creative images that were used, mm-hmm. we only had a few rows with data identifying performance of them.
I get it.
Right. So machine learning models that we are using are a bit like Bond supervillains. They are greedy. Not greedy for money or power, but really greedy for the amount of data to work with and the data quality. Mm-hmm. And this was the reason why we didn't have sufficient data, because we only had the few data points with performance, and we were not able to move forward with the project for the client. And so far we have experienced different challenges around data availability for creative analytics, challenges ranging from creatives, for example, stored in email messages, which we probably all know, up to not sufficient performance data available. And this makes learning from past impossible. And only by solving the data first, we can fully unleash the potential of creatives. But once we do, this is where it really gets interesting. In the studies we have concluded so far, we see that some insights are quite universal and others are more product or category specific. Mm-hmm. So what we typically find out for brands with strong equity, and we are within this brand relevancy crisis that Stach was talking about. So for brands with equity, we typically learn that creatives should really build on the creative assets, starting with giving sufficient focus to the brand logo, which might seem obvious, but interestingly doesn't happen always. And when we are browsing through historical creatives, we very often notice that we cannot really find logo. It is there, but we cannot really find it.
So actually make the logo bigger is a thing, and we have a data to back it up.
Not necessarily bigger, make it the right size and place it in the right position.
Okay.
But that's not only about logo. Other strong brand assets should be leveraged, such as the iconic colors, for example. This is what we should build on. The product itself has a lot of potential as well. So it needs to be the right product from the portfolio whenever possible, but also very often placed in the right section of the creative. Moving forward, there are some learnings which are not that consistent. And graphics is one that is particularly interesting because in some cases, graphics are actually harming the performance by unnecessarily stealing the attention from the product. In others, graphics might help to stand out as long as they are linked with the brand equity or, for example, product usage occasions.
Makes sense.
It's also a bit tricky with text because in some categories, very descriptive, informative messages actually impact positively the creative performance. But in others, it doesn't necessarily work this way. For example, we are seeing cases where calls to action, so messages like buy, click, or get, are not getting the attention and therefore are not driving the effects that we would expect them to. And we really, really need those insights from the past creatives to understand the elements, the best elements and structures from which we will be building the overperforming creatives of the future. So by now you are probably thinking that it sounds quite interesting and smart, and the word AI was used quite a lot, but you are all busy people. So you're probably also thinking, is it worth your effort to invest your focus into the other half? You are probably already doing programmatic, performance, participating in this conference, learning on what to do in the cookieless world, and also maybe even some DCO. So do you really need to add one more thing to your agenda? Well, I'm not able to tell you whether it's worth your effort, but what I am able to tell you is that Polish media market is estimated at 11 billion zlotys annually. If we would focus only on display campaigns, we're talking about 1.5 billion zlotys every year. So focusing on those, if we manage to improve creative effectiveness by only 15%.
Sounds modest.
It's modest. I would even say that it's quite conservative versus what we've seen as the creative potential. So if we manage to do that, we are talking about 230 million zlotys worth of campaign efficiency for the total Polish market every year.
Let me make sure I understand. So if we were to drive these results using just media pressure, just hardcore increased budget, for example, it would cost us 230 million.
Yes, the whole Polish market, this is how much more we need to invest.
So that's the media value of improving creative effectiveness.
Exactly.
Excellent.
Exactly. So that's the Polish market perspective. You can easily replace those numbers with the numbers for your brand to judge whether really addressing the other half is worth your effort. I'm guessing that for majority of you, it is.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.